Hello. I call myself the Underground Reader, and I've been thinking about starting a YouTube channel for a while now, and things have just been keep coming up in life. But today is November 1st, 2023, and I said, today's the day. Let's go for it. Um, I use the name Underground Reader because I come from a very staunchly conservative Christian background, and my family and dearest and oldest friends are still in those circles, completely devoted to their faith and a bit close minded. Um, Now, my home life and childhood was extremely happy and loving and nurturing. And I have nothing bad to say about it. I have no regrets. I am very happy with the way I grew up. But um, one of the things of being encouraged to learn and grow and think for myself was that I don't necessarily agree with everything I was taught growing up. Um, and I'm more open-minded, and I'm exploring other things, not as a replacement for the faith that I grew up with, but with as a to enhance it, to have a little more depth into my spirituality and my experience. Um, you know, I grew up being attracted to the fantasy and the fanciful and the mythical. Um, as a child growing up, playing outside, I was frequently pretending that I was in the woods and gathering herbs and plants and sticks and making potions and crafts. So for me, I think it was just always innately there that this would be part of me that I would need to explore at some point in my life. I was not exposed to this in any way, shape, or form by people that was around me, or even in our community. Um, it came from within, basically. And I'm interested in exploring that, investigating it, and tapping into it more into my life now. So obviously, those things would not be agreeable or acceptable to my family and oldest and closest friends. Um, but it's something I have to do for myself. And so to potentially avoid the condemnation, the guilting, the judgmentalness, um, I'm keeping it secret. I am practicing underground. Um, my journey with tarot probably started. I'm not really sure. I always had this little more free spirited side to myself. And as I started meeting new people and getting introduced to other ideas, alternative ideas, I discovered the metaphysical community. Um, and I started reading things online about these things. And somewhere along the line, I was introduced to tarot. And I knew that tarot was a form of divination. And of course, in the circles that I grew up in, divination was bad. It was evil. It was of the devil. It was going to invite dark and evil things into your life. And so while I was fascinated with this idea, with this concept, and with the imagery, I tried to resist it. And I'm like, yeah, this is a bad thing. I shouldn't be involved with it. But tarot and the imagery just kept calling to me. I couldn't get away from it. So I um, bought a couple decks and I kept them hidden. And so when I was by myself, I'd get them out, I'd look at them, I'd read through the book. Frequently, the images and the descriptions really didn't make sense to me. Um, and I struggled with it, and I didn't understand, how to do a reading or anything. Um, but having to work with it in secret, made me feel guilty. And, so eventually I passed those decks along and sold them or something. And so probably a decade or so later, I was in a low point in my life and I was looking for something a little more um, to to just kind of pick me up and give me a little more meaning to life. And I came back to tarot again and picked up a couple decks, and there was a group online I came across, and they were offering free mentorship in different magical topics. And one of them was tarot. And I got matched up with an instructor, and I started working on trying to learn tarot. Now, looking back at it, this person was, they were pretty serious, and it was kind of deep, and it was really kind of overwhelming for a brand new beginner that had no experience with tarot whatsoever. I think the approach to teaching tarot would have been really good for somebody who was somewhat experienced, but looking to take their reading experience even deeper. Um, but we only got through a few lessons, and the instructor got ill and had to stop teaching. And like I said, I was doing it in secret again, so it was kind of um, hard to engage. But then my husband, who has always had an attraction to the forest and the outdoors, he grew up camping and hunting and trapping to survive. Um, and he's just always felt much more comfortable out in nature than in suburban settings. And he had come across some stuff online or something, and he had questions about what some of the nature based uh, practitioners believed. And I had a friend from high school who came out as a witch in about college, at least to me. And he still lived in the area, so we hooked up with him, and hubby picked his brain some. And he seemed genuinely interested in what he had to say and learning more about these things. And I expressed my interest in pursuing tarot, knowing more about tarot. And hubby didn't have a problem with it. So I didn't have to do it in secret anymore. Having lost a teacher, I found a tarot forum and started participating in there. And of course, I wasn't reading yet because I still didn't know the meanings of the cards and really understand them, but I was participating in discussions and checking out new decks and things. And after about a month, the owner of the forum announced that she had submitted a question to a tarot podcast, and they were going to be doing a tarot reading on her question that week. So I went out and hunted up the podcast, and it was the Amateur Tarot Podcast done by Brian and Ben. And so the episode came out, I listened to it, and I was captivated. They were so engaging. They made it so much fun. It was so funny. They had great comedic timing. I learned later that the podcast started out of they were both members of an improv troupe. Ben actually helped mentor people into improv, and they got into doing the Amateur Tarot Podcast as a way of working on their improv skills and also as a way to learn tarot. And so after that episode, I was like, I needed more of this. And I went to the archives and started working my way through all their old episodes. My first episode that I listened to was episode 84, so I had 83 episodes that I could get through, and helped tide me over to the next week because it was a once a week podcast. But it was so engaging, and I got hooked, and I got really involved with it. I joined their fan group and helped spark conversation about the episodes and interaction with the group. And we'd pull cards, and I started doing 3-card readings for people's birthdays within the group. And it just gave me the confidence to say, you can do this. It's actually fun. Just get out there and start doing the readings, because they started their podcast doing readings when they didn't understand the meanings of the tarot cards either. So that just was like, gave me permission to go ahead and start reading for myself, even though I didn't have the meanings down pat yet. So what I did was, I was a member of another metaphysical group, and I got permission to do 1-card draws once a week. And I used my Happy Tarot deck. I love my Happy Tarot deck. The images are just so much fun. It's like everything is taking place in Candyland. You've got cotton candy clouds, lollipop flowers, muffins, gummy candies, chocolate bars, just all kinds of stuff. And here's the strength card. I have a love-hate relationship with the strength card, because once I started doing my year cards, this came up twice, and both years were really rough. And so I see the strength card, and I kind of get a twinge. And this is probably my favorite Cups card. It's the Knight of Cups, because I love seahorses, and this is just so adorable. And this is the Five of Wands, and thanks to the grand wisdom of Brian from the podcast, as they were doing a reading and the 5 of cards came up, they always described the card. Because it was a podcast, you couldn't see what was going on. So they would describe the card, and then they would kind of talk about the action in the card. And the way he described the card, or the meaning of the card, was we can't get the damn tent up card. And of course, you can see everybody's kind of at odds. No one's working together. So obviously, you're not going to be able to get a tent up this way if those are tent posts, And it's been a great way to remember that card. I mean, it's been years since he said that. I mean, they stopped recording in 2020 when the lockdowns came because it was just they couldn't do podcasts, and it hasn't resumed because they've all gone in different directions at this point. But so it was pre 2020 when this was said, and of course I still remember that. And here is a picture of the death card, which is one of the more quote unquote scary cards. And you can see that, the characters are cute. It's just a lot less intimidating the way this is drawn. Also, your Tower card. And we also have the Devil card. And what I liked about this deck was that in the little white book, when it talks about the card, at the end of the description of the card, the meaning of the card, it always gives you a positive, happy affirmation. And for the Devil, the happy affirmation is you can find happiness by breaking the chains that bind you. It all is based on perspective about what kind of reading you get out of your cards. And here we've got the Tower. But there you go. Let's go back to death. The happy affirmation for death is you can find happiness by accepting endings as inevitable. So, coming to peace with endings. They're not pleasant, but um there's a positive outcome for every ending at some point. Um I had just participated in a um workshop this past weekend with a well-known pagan writer. And this individual said that, in divinatory practices, tarot, tea leaf reading, whatever, that they don't deal with negative stuff. If a quote unquote negative image or negative tarot card comes up, she puts a positive spin on it. She said there's enough negativeness in the world. You don't need to be feeding into that. And if you're focusing on the negative, you're just going to bring more of it into your life. And, with this happy tarot deck introducing happy affirmations to me, I thought, I couldn't deal with having to give somebody a bad reading. Like you get the death card and the Tower card, and I mean, that's going to tear somebody up. And discovering that there's a way to put a positive spin on things really helped me because I didn't want to bring people down with a one card reading, and I pulled the Tower for them. Um, so I had already had that in my mind that I'm going to interpret this in a positive way for people. And so hearing this very well known, well respected leader in the pagan community leading a divination workshop say the same thing really helped boost my confidence. And yeah, you've got the right handle on what it is you want to be doing. Um, but I used the Happy Tarot to do my one card draws. It was less intimidating for people and it was really fun. And the great thing about doing them is that people could stop in and post on the or comment on the post whenever they were available. And then I could come along when I was available and follow up the reading. And then later on, they could come back and see what their reading was. And it worked out really well for me because there was no pressure in a live reading. And if I drew a card I wasn't familiar with, I was able to look it up in the book and take time to really think about it and come up with a very good reading for that person. And it just helps cement those meanings in my mind. So, my advice to anyone wanting to learn tarot is get a fun deck that isn't intimidating, such as the Happy Tarot. The Halloween Tarot is also a non intimidating deck. It's still based on the Rider Waite Smith system. Now, the suits are different. Traditional suits are um, cups, pentacles, swords, and wands. And these are different in that we have imps, the suit of imps instead of wands, the suit of bats instead of swords. We have the suit of pumpkins instead of pentacles. And you have the suit of ghosts instead of cups. But if you can keep that in mind, the imagery is really cute. It is really fun. So it's another deck that is less intimidating. And I found that when the deck was fun and non intimidating, I liked working with it a lot better. And I was actually excited about picking up and doing something with it. So now I think I have a decent grasp on it. I need more practice, and I'm trying to do more readings for people. Um, I still like doing the non live readings, particularly, the one card draws on a post. But I'm getting out there. I'm trying to do some video readings, still not live, but like pre recorded, because I can pause the video and think about things instead of having that pressure of somebody sitting right across from me saying, "So what does it say?" Performance anxiety. um, so, yeah, as an introvert, performance anxiety is a thing for something like that. But anyway, that's why I'm starting my YouTube channel. And the background as to why I really won't have my face on camera and I'm not putting my name out there because I have to kind of stay underground. Um, but it adds a little bit of mystery, I think, which is kind of fun. So I hope that you can relate to me a little bit, that you enjoyed getting to know me, and I hope that you will follow me and interact with me here on my channel. Blessed be.